Hi all. Today I'll be talking to you about embedding multi-tenant dashboards for thousands of your users without managing them in QuickSight. I'm Kareem and I'm a product manager with Amazon QuickSight. First, I will walk you through the agenda. We will have a quick introduction about what is Amazon QuickSight. Then we will talk about a use case where you can use this feature. And then we will focus on implementation details of this particular feature. In the end, I have some reference links for you that can help you with some documentation when you want to use this feature. So, as an introduction to Amazon QuickSight is a business intelligence solution at scale. What it means is that it scales with how many of users you have. It is a managed solution, so you don't have to worry about provisioning extra hardware or scaling or performance as your user base increases. And Amazon has rich embedding capabilities. You can embed dashboards or you can embed authoring experience. And at the same time, you also can customize your embedding experience with a rich embedding SDK. You also get some ML insights out of the box, such as anomaly detection, insights, alerts, and it is enterprise ready. What this means is that it is a managed solutions ready to be used. All you need to do is sign up and then build dashboards and start using those dashboards. Now that we have learned about what is Amazon QuickSight, let us talk about this particular feature. Here is a use case to set stage and how you can use this feature. Let's say that you are an ISV and you manage revenue data for different customers. And the way you do that is you have embedded a QuickSight dashboard into your SaaS application for all your customers who have thousands of users. And you want to show data to these users when they come to access this embedded dashboard into your SaaS application. Now, you want to make sure that you are enabling multi-tenancy when users are accessing this dashboard. What that means is, let's say that there are two users, so one is Bob and other is John. When Bob accesses the dashboard, you want to make sure that they see data for the revenue goals only for regions US and EMEA, but for all segments and service lines in those regions. And when John accesses the dashboard, you want to make sure that John sees data only for APAC region and John focuses only on enterprise segment, but they see data across all service lines in APAC and enterprise segment. Next, you're already managing thousands of these users in your SaaS application and you don't want to further manage them in QuickSight. So this feature enables you to enable multi-tenancy and at the same time not manage or provision users in QuickSight. And now that we have set stage here with the use case, we can talk about what it takes to implement this feature. There are two steps. First step is you will be adding tag keys to the columns of your dataset. In this particular use case, there are three columns: customer region, segment, and service lines. So you will be adding tag keys to these three columns, and these will be set on the dataset. And once you have set these tag keys, you can pass values to these tag keys at runtime. And this is step two. And this is done at the time you are embedding the dashboard into your SaaS application using our embedding API. At that time, you will be passing the values to these tag keys. So what this enables you is that you know the profile of the users and you're able to pass those profile details to us as values to the stack keys at runtime. And this enables you to also change those values next time the same user logs in case their profile has changed without you managing rules separately in QuickSight. One thing to note is that as soon as you complete step one successfully, the data set is secure. So if authors are using this data set to build an analysis, they won't be able to see any data on this data set. because you have secured the data set now. So in order for the authors to be able to access the data in the data sets when they're authoring an analysis, you will have to add them to the rules data set. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through details of step one, step two, and the note here to show you how you can do these one by one. So let's get into the details of step one. The details of step one are to add the tag keys to the columns that you want to use to secure your dataset. So the way to do that is you can add the tag keys to the columns using the create dataset or update dataset API. There is a new element in these two APIs called row level permission tag configuration. When you actually do this, you will be defining the tags as follows. You can see that I have defined three tag keys. There is tag region, tag key tag segment, and tag key tag service line. Each of these are assigned to the three columns. Tag region is assigned to customer region. Tag keys as tag segment is assigned to segment, and tag service line is assigned to service line. Tag key is a string. You can have any string value there. For just this particular demo, I'm using the prefix tag underscore. You will see two more elements, tag multi-value delimiter and match all value. I will talk to you about that in a bit. But otherwise, this is how you will be setting up tag keys on your data set for particular columns. Certain things to note is that you can have up to 50 tag keys on a particular data set. You can have multiple tag keys on the same column, but overall you can have up to 50 tag keys. Then you saw two other elements um, in the slide prior to this. The first element was tag multi-value delimiter. This is an option that you can use to define what your delimiter should be when you're passing multiple values to the tag keys at runtime. So for example, let's say that the region you want to focus on is US and EMEA. Then you can, here you can see that I've defined my tag value delimiter as comma. So in that case, you're able to see this value as US comma EMEA. Match all value has to be a string. You can use any string. I have used asterisk for my example. But what that does is if you're using that as your value, then you don't have to define list all the values in the column. Maybe this is for a power user who wants to see the data for all values in that column. So you can just use star instead when you're passing the value to that particular tag key at runtime. Another thing is that you can enable or disable the tag keys on a data set by setting the status here. Here you can see that I have set the status as enabled, meaning that I have enabled this a tag-based row level security on this data set. If you want to disable the rules, then you can set the status value as disabled. Let me quickly show you a sample of my data set of how I have enabled the tag keys. So this is my data set that I'm using for the sample. It is called Business Review RLS with tags. And I have used the update dataset API to create the tags on my three columns. Let me quickly show you the describe dataset result of that. So when I run the describe dataset, you will see the entire definition of this dataset, but in the end, you will see the row level permission tag configuration. I have enabled it and I have set the tag rules on the three columns, customer region, segment, service line. You can see the three tags, tag region, which is for this column customer region, tag segment, which is for this column segment, tag service line, which is for this column service line. I've also defined my tag multi-value delimiter, comma, for all three tags, and match all value as star for all three tags. Please note that tag multi-value delimiter and match all value is not required, but if you define those, you must have a string set so that you can use whatever you have defined there when you pass values. Now that I have enabled this particular tag rules on this data set, let's move on to the next step. So I have successfully added the tag rules to the dataset, and my dataset is now secure. Now when the author goes to build an analysis using dataset, they will have a warning that they cannot see the data because the data is secure. They will see something like this. The warning they see is you don't have permission to access this data, which is restricted by row level security. But this is not helpful because when authors are authoring the dashboard or an analysis, they need to see the data as they're building out the visuals or the dashboard. So you will have to add the author separately as a named user access using the rules dataset and assign this rules dataset to the original dataset. I will actually walk you through of how to do this. But once you do that, the author will be able to see the data in the dataset even though it is secured using tags because you have enabled their access using the rules dataset. So let me quickly walk you through how I have done that. So what I'm going to do is imagine that this data set has no security on it at all for now for the rules using the rules data set. You see a secure icon here because I have the tags rules assigned on it. Now, when I go into the analysis and I try to build a dashboard, I see this particular error because I, as an author, don't have permissions to view this data in this data set. Now, what I'm going to do is I have created a rules data set as follows. Here you can see that I have added myself, I'm the author here. These are the three columns on which I had enabled the tags. And I'm passing no values into these because I want to be able to see all data, all values in these three columns. And I'm going to assign this rules data set into my original data set so that I, as an author, can see it. Here is my rules data set. I'm going to assign it. So I have successfully assigned the rules data set to my original data set. Now when I go back to my analysis, I'm able to see the data. So this step is required so that your authors can see the data even though you have secured your data using your data set using the tags. Now that we have enabled the author to build the dashboard, imagine that this is the dashboard and they have published it, and I have a dashboard published here. So this dashboard is ready to be embedded into your SaaS application. But when you're embedding it, you're going to pass values to the tags based on who is accessing your application so that they see data only to what they're entitled to see. So let me walk you through some samples there. So that is the step 2 is passing values to tag keys at runtime when embedding the dashboard anonymously based on who is accessing your SaaS application. For that, you will be using generate embed URL for anonymous user API. In that we have a element called session tags, and in this element you'll be defining the values or assigning values to the tag keys that you created in the earlier step, the step 1. So if you recall, I had 3 different keys: tag region, tag segment, and tag service line. What I'm doing is I'm going to pass value US and APAC for tag region, enterprise and startup for tag segment. And for tag service line, I'm using the match all value, which is asterisk, so that all the values are used for segment, enterprise and startup, and region US and APAC. So let me quickly show you how that works. So here is my input to the generate embed URL for anonymous user API. I have defined the resource on for my dashboard. My experience configuration is the dashboard with dashboard ID, and this is where I have defined my session tags. Now I'm going to run the CLI command for generate embed URL for anonymous user and show you what the dashboard looks like. So here, as you can see, I have the generate embed URL for anonymous user. I'm using my input file as my input, and I'm going to generate the URL. So I have this URL. I'm going to take this URL and render it, and I will show you the data of what this particular user sees based on the values that has been passed at runtime. I'm going to render the URL that was returned to me by the API. So as you can see here, I'm seeing data only for regions APAC and US, for enterprise and startup, but across all service lines. I'm able to see the revenue goals across all service lines. Now, let me change the values at runtime for a different user who can access data only for EMEA region, segment is SMB, and service line is HR. Here, you can see that I have changed my session tags for EMEA region, SMB segment, and HR service line. And this is something similar to what you would be doing when you are calling the generate embed URL for anonymous user at runtime and passing different values for the session tags based on the different user. So now I'm going to generate the new URL by running my CLI command. So I'm going to run the same command with the same input, but my values have been changed. Now I'm going to render this URL, and I will see that the data is different than what it was for the URL that I ran some time back. So this is what you had seen for the first time, but now let me render the new URL. So now you can see that I see data only for customer region EMEA, segment SMB, and revenue goal for service line only HR. This is for a different user that you pass different values to the tags at runtime. And the first user could see data for APAC and US because you pass those values to them. And the second user is able to see data only for EMEA and SMB and HR because you pass those values during runtime. So using the tag keys and passing values at runtime, you're able to secure data based on who is accessing your application at runtime and you have not managed any of these users within QuickSight. Now that we have walked through a small demo, let's talk about certain things that you need to note. First is that this feature works only for an anonymous user, meaning that this user is not provisioned in QuickSight, and that's why we are using the API generate embed URL for anonymous user. Secondly, when you are embedding dashboards for anonymous users, you must have a session capacity pack. Session capacity packs start at $250 per month. With this release, tag keys can only be set on columns that are of data type string. Here are some of the references that will be helpful to you as you are building out your POC or your application. I hope you really enjoyed this video and it was helpful to you. Please reach out to us if you have any questions at quicksightsales@amazon.com. Thank you for listening in. Have a nice day.